Is being stuck different than not having a purpose? Or how
They're
do you
very
think?
related. Yeah,
Okay.
because the biggest reason people consult me is a sense of not having a purpose. And they'll put that above things like heartbreak or, disease. Like not having a purpose is really a big problem. And it's really related to being stuck because our knowledge of the direction we want to take is informed by a sense of purpose. And when we don't have a sense of purpose, we have no way of knowing where to go. And that gets us stuck. I do seminars in Africa. And one of the things we do is we take people rhinoceros tracking because that's an obvious thing to do, right? If you don't have a sense of purpose. The rhinoceros is your purpose. You learn to see every sign it leaves on the earth and everything. And then we take them back to the camp and we say, now you're going to track your purpose the way we track the rhino. And the way you track the track of your purpose is joy in the body.
Oh.
A sense of joy, lifting or lightness, relaxation in the body is a track. And it never says, here's what you're going to be in 20 years or even 20 minutes. It says, here's your next step forward. So with this financial situation, you're about to make a brilliant decision. How does that, if you say that, what happens in your body?
I feel that freedom and peace and ease that you talk about.
So the Buddha used to say, and he said it a lot, wherever you find water, you can know if it's the ocean because no matter what it looks like, the ocean always tastes of salt. And when you find enlightenment, you will always recognize it no matter what it looks like because enlightenment always tastes of freedom.
Ooh.
Not giddy joy, not bliss, freedom. It can be scary as hell to serve your purpose, but it's free. You are free. So when you say you felt lighter and freer, that's a track. So now, you know that that's what you're going to follow instead of the thing that says, oh my God, I'm going to make a terrible decision.
Or I'm always going to be alone, or it's never going to work out for me, or I'm never going to be good enough. Like that is one lane.
Yeah.
And using these tools, you're now accessing and flipping the suffering.
Yeah, and you're tracking what brings you more freedom in the body, more joy in the body. So if you're making the decision, okay, I'm going to put this money in this account or in that account, literally sit there and say, okay, if I make decision A, what happens in my body? Shut down. If I make decision B, what happens in my body? A little bit lighter. So I always say to people, think of the worst experience you had and then feel how that was in your body and give that a score, -10 on the happy meter. Then remember the most peaceful and free you've ever felt, that's a +10. And everything in between, 0 is neutral. So you may make a decision with this financial thing where it's just that's +1, that's -3. Okay, it might be subtle, but as you learn to feel what sets you free, what removes suffering and replaces it with, that's how you know the next step. And as the steps start to add up, you go, oh my God, that's my purpose?
Is everybody's purpose different?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, you said that with such certainty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's as individual as our fingerprints.
And how do you define purpose?
That which brings you the greatest satisfaction and joy as a being on this earth, and that allows you to contribute the most satisfaction and joy to the rest of the world. That's your purpose. It's where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. A theologian said that once. I think it was Frederick Buechner.
And how do you discover this? You talked about the rhino hunting, and then you take people back and say, okay, we're going to do that exact same process. Do you look backwards and start to look for tracks and clues in your past, or do you look forward?
Well, you do. You realize what feels like the way forward and what is not the way forward. And it's really simple. If it sets you free even a little bit, go there. That's your purpose. If it traps you, if it makes you feel encased, no matter how slightly, that is what my friend Boyd, who tracks with me, calls the track of not there. So we go through life banging into suffering and, oh my God, and that is just the track of not there. After you learn to track joy, you won't even pay much attention to all of that noise. You'll be so focused following your joy, and then you'll look up and go, oh my God, that's where I'm headed? Like, think of your story of being in the audience at the convention.
I'm so glad we're going there because I have been stuck so many times in my life, and a lot of times, and I know you find this with people too. When you're stuck, and you're pretty convinced you are.
Yeah.
And you're scared you're going to stay there. And when you hear somebody like you say, we got to track your joy, you got to move toward freedom. When you're that stuck, it's sort of like, what the hell does that even mean?
Right.
Like, I can barely get out of bed. I don't like the job that I have. I can't pay my bills.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where I was when I was sitting in that audience. And you gave me a taste of that. Oh, there's something that feels different here. I'm going to move toward this. And the simple tool I came up with was, what would Martha Beck do? And I'll just do that because the woman has a life that feels different than mine. And so I'm going to just kind of move toward that, even though I don't even know what she would do. I'm just going to guess what she would do. And so if the person listening is in it with us and they're also like, okay, but what do I do when I wake up? What do I do in my life right now to find these small pockets of joy in my day? Because I'm assuming that's where you start.
No, actually, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
Not in the day.
Oh, thank God.
It's always in this moment, and it's always inside the self. There is no such thing as a circumstance that will set you free. All your feeling of captivity is always coming from the mind, from the fear-based mind. When you set yourself free in your mind, like I was bedridden for 12 years with a whole bunch of autoimmune diseases, a lot of which they told me were incurable and progressive. I don't have any symptoms. But that didn't start after, for 12 years, I was in constant chronic pain and severe disability, okay? Like I raised my kids on a king-size bed, and I felt very, very stuck. And then I realized that the feeling of being stuck was torture and that I could shift the feeling. So it always starts, what am I thinking? I'm thinking, I'm stuck. There's nowhere to go. That causes suffering. What's the opposite? I'm free. I could go in any direction. And then find a way in which that may be true, even if you just find one little mode of it in what looks like a sea of pain. Once I got on a plane and I was at the airport and this guy started talking to me. He was a professional hockey player. He said, here's the thing. The net is small and the goalie is big in hockey, but you can't ever look at the goalie. You look at the 5 little spaces where the puck can go, because where your eyes go, the puck goes. So I get on the plane and the guy beside me says, I'm a whitewater rafter. And let me tell you, there are times when it just looks like all rocks and just a little tiny bit of water, but you never look at the rocks because where your eyes go, the boat goes. And I was like, okay, something's happening. I get off the plane, I go take a horse riding lesson. And my teacher says, always look where you want the horse to go. Where your eyes go, the horse goes. And I was just like, I get it. Where my attention goes, my life goes. If you feel stuck, I'm there for you. Tell me everything. And when you're done telling me everything, I'll say, where are you free? And when I started finding the places I was free, one by one, these incurable symptoms disappeared. I'm 61. Last month, I went on a walk in England, and I walked 75 miles in 6 days after being told I'd never walk again. It's because I know how this thing works, and we can use it to lock us down, or we can use it to set us free, no matter what.
What were some of the little things when you started doing this for yourself after being bedridden for 12 years that were pockets of freedom for you, just to give the person listening like a sense of what you're talking about?
I started looking at the things that hurt most because it was like having knives stuck in me, these thoughts that I thought. And everybody has these. I'm not good enough. People, this person doesn't love me. Life is a bitch and then you die. Whatever it was. I'd be like, life is a bitch and then you die. All right. I'll never get out of this bed. Okay. That hurts. I'll always get out of this bed. that can't be true. I'm lying. Wait. I can read a book and be a million miles away. I can watch a show and space travel. I can talk to a friend and feel everything they're feeling and be at the dance where they're dancing. And I am free because the human imagination can do anything. That's where my attention went. And that's where my life went. Because everything else just hurt too much.
How long did it take? I'm sitting here asking these questions on behalf of the skeptic because you want to believe that it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
But your mind is so against you at times.
Oh, yeah.
That even when you get these little morsels where you feel like it is true, if I watch a movie, I'm no longer in this bed because my mind is in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's a small way to find freedom. And as I start to unshackle myself from these painful thoughts and I bring freedom into my experience, things open up.
Yeah. And the thing to notice is just, does it feel a little bit better? Does it feel a little bit freer? What's happening when people feel stuck is, and I don't want to get all brain sciencey, but honest to God, there's a little spiral that happens in a part of our brain that it's such a strange thing. That part of the brain believes that it's stuck and also believes that nothing that contradicts it is true at all. So you get into this tiny, I call it an anxiety spiral. And it believes that only it is real. And people who have like strokes and they can only use that part of their brain, they believe that half the world doesn't exist because they're only perceiving it with the anxious mind and nothing else exists. But if you can go from, I'm always going to be stuck in this bed to, I'm always going to be free in this bed, then part of your brain lets go of the anxiety and it turns to the part of the brain that is creative. And that is the part that a lot of people don't understand, that the opposite of your worst thought is not this serene bliss or calm. It is that you suddenly walk into the zone of the human imagination at its most creative, and it can solve anything.
Well, that is the topic of your new 7th instant New York Times bestselling book, Beyond Anxiety. And I would love to have you explain that tool of flipping from that kind of anxiety spiral to how you tap into the creative brain. Because when you are stuck, when you do feel like you don't know what your purpose is, anxiety does take over.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're so worried, what if I never get unstuck? What if I never figure it out? What if I die and I wasted all this time?
Yeah.
What if I never even figured out who I was or what I was meant to be?
Yeah.
And this is where all your work with people and what you've written about for years really helps people figure out. And so what do you want us to know about curiosity and creativity, especially for somebody who's stuck?
Here's the first thing you need to know. Anxiety always lies, but only always.
And wait, what does that mean? But only always.
I just like to say it. It's like, you're a thing that makes you feel entrapped is always bad for you, but only always. And it's just a joke. It's a way of, because people think, that's sort of, no, I really mean it. All your anxiety is lying. Oh, no, it isn't. I put that at the end of the book. If I'd put it at the beginning, people would have said, F you, and just thrown it at the wall, right?
Yes.
Because it feels so convincing that your most frightening, self-hating thoughts are the truth. And it's lying. So that's the first thing. Just hear me now, understand me later. And
I'm stealing that. I am still, hear me now, understand me later. That is amazing. Okay.
So you nailed it in your book, Let Them. Because let them, a phrase where you're in this tense state, you're trying to control. So the anxiety spiral goes fear, control, back to fear again. And it just spins and it gets bigger and bigger. And the attempt to control gets bigger. And Let Them is a way out of the spiral. And it's genius. It's genius. So you know that it's genius. You have it tattooed on your bodies, you know. So Let Them kind of relaxes the spiral. And then when you say, let me do something, given that this person or this world event is happening the way it's happening, let me assume my responsibility, my ability to respond, given that my mind is free. Okay. So let me do what? Now you are using the part of your brain that creates. And there's tons of evidence showing that anxiety shuts down creativity. What there's not a lot of studies about is creativity also shuts down anxiety. So if you can go into that creative space, you will go for 3 or 4 hours and then realize, I haven't been anxious for 3 or 4 hours. So when you sit down to write and you shared with me that you have dyslexia, right?
Mm-mm.
So the written word has not always been your friend, but you create these amazing books. Think about being inside that creative process. I don't know how you do it. For me, it's always somebody sitting across from me who's in prison.
What do you mean?
Well, I once met a warden from a woman's prison, and this is when I was doing my Oprah magazine column. And she told me that when they tossed the cells, the most common thing they found were copies of my column from Oprah magazine. And I remember crying, going back to my hotel room and crying because I felt such tremendous empathy with someone sitting, talk about stuck, no options. I think the part of me that was so trapped and found its way to freedom has always been trying to find the trapped part of other people and say, we're going to get you out of here.
Wow.
Yeah. Stuckness always means you're about to be transformed. Tell me one of the scariest thoughts that comes up when you let your fear speak.
You are about to do something stupid.
The opposite of the most painful thought in your head is your next step toward awakening. I would say you're about to do something really brilliant. Feel that?
Yes.